Welcome to a more just and merciful world. I'm Kathy Humphrey, and I serve as the president of Carlow University. On this podcast, we talk to leaders, teachers, artists, scientists, and changemakers from around the globe to explore how to bring more justice and mercy into our world. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to have our county executive with us today, who is the first woman, I might add, to serve as the county executive. And Sara has been doing an amazing job for our county. So many amazing things that are happening all around us. The BRT is coming down the road right as we speak. That's going to be exciting. The airport, I every time somebody comes to town, Sara, they say to me, wow, your airport is so different now. I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. But all of those things are within your responsibility, and you have a huge job, but you're also making a really huge difference here. So let me just say, first of all, thank you for what you're doing. And I am thrilled that you are doing all that you're doing to make Pittsburgh and our county just an amazing place. So welcome, Sara, to our podcast today. So Sara, we, as you heard in the intro, we try to talk to people who really are making our world more just and more merciful. And when I think about people who are really doing this work, and I try to interview people who are doing that work, you are doing that work. you are really changing people's lives with the new programs that you're putting in place. I remember when you first came into office, you were really concerned about the unhoused, and you had this ginormous goal of how many additional housing spaces that you were going to create. Talk to me. Where's all that coming from? What made you decide I can make a difference, and I'm going to run for county executive to make that difference?
Yeah. So I think it's important to kind of understand the context in which we're operating as Americans. And if you look at government and you look at data, people are losing trust in their government institutions. So every year, the faith in Congress goes lower and lower and lower. And the thing is that government is a neutral tool. It can be used for good and bad. And
that's good.
If we want to create more trust, we have to be able to communicate with people, deliver for people, be responsive to the greatest needs and challenges that exist in our region. And, it's really hard to change things at the federal level. I was in the state house for 5 years before I was a county executive, and that change is hard too. It's possible, but it is very hard as well. But when you're looking at county government, especially a county like Allegheny County, where we have 1.25 million people, county government has about a $3 billion budget or so. We have 19 different departments. We have a ton of authorities that we're responsible for. You can actually scale impact. You can be an laboratory for good ideas to flourish and for that feedback and trust loop to circulate. And so all that to say is that that's the way I approach county government, is like, how do I really keep a pulse on what's going on in people's everyday lives? And then how do we move the ship of county government to be responsive to those needs? And it's big enough to have the impact, but it's also small enough to be able to be more nimble than other levels of government. So I hope, at the end of the day, I'm like, how do we restore trust in government? Because when I grew up, I really didn't have a political consciousness. I grew up in the suburbs of Allegheny County. I had, I came from a 2-parent household, went to a nice suburban school. And really, when I was 14 or 15 years old, we found out that my dad was suffering from a substance use disorder. He was addicted to opioids, and he went to seek help. And, that was a really tumultuous time for my family. It really upended our stability. Eventually, my mom took my sister and I out of that household, and, she had graduated with a high school degree, and she was trying to find work and trying to find places for us to live. And, it really upended the world that I was living in, and to no fault of my own or my mother's own. It's just, it was a consequence of what
Of life.
was going on,
Yeah.
and just showed how precarious people's situations can be and how easily families can fall through the cracks, and
how quickly things can change.
exactly.
Right. And how most of the time when we're talking about making a difference in people's lives, oftentimes people feel like, well, if you just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, if you just do this, if you just do that, not realizing that oftentimes they have no bootstraps. Oftentimes they haven't been given anything to assist them in any kind of way. And most people who are doing well have started from a very different place, right? And so I am thrilled that you're sharing your story, because I think your story is the story of so many people. Right. And that, and what I love about your story is you can have that story and be the county executive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Which means you can have that story and be anybody you want to be, which I think is another incredible story that you're telling, and also shows us a little glimpse into your passion for this work.
Yeah. And I think people are really hungry to elect authentic people.
Yes.
And the way, like, not all politicians are the same. They shouldn't have to fit into a mold. And, I found that my greatest success is tied to being vulnerable. And that's a great way to build trust with people, showing that, hey, I'm imperfect. I'm an imperfect person. I have an imperfect story. I've seen challenges. They're, ones that are shared by so many others. And so it helps to display empathy and show that, even if we don't agree 100% on the politics of things or the policies, that we can respect each other as human beings and where we come from.
That whole notion of just respect, right? Because a lot of the work is driven, even for me, a lot of the work is driven out of this whole notion of being able to respect the person beside me, no matter where they come from. They deserve my respect. They deserve my care. They deserve my love, no matter where they've come from. And this is what I am seeing that you are attending to when you with the new program that you're doing for childcare, right? People need help. And they need that assistant. And what's amazing about the childcare program, I watched you on TV making the big announcement and thought, this is incredible, because, of course, we have early child care here at Carlo. I like to say we educate from 0 to 80, because we really don't do high school, but we do everything from early learning to 8th grade, and then we pick you back up when you get to college. But the need is incredible, right? We have a wait list for children 0 to 3. It's incredible, the wait list, because there's not enough providers. And we're trying to work on that on both ends, right? We're trying to be a provider. We're trying to educate providers. We're so fortunate that we've gotten an assistantship grant that allows us to educate more early learning providers and lets them go to school without having to pay tuition, which is a wonderful program to help really meet the need of this program that you're talking about, because it doesn't matter that there's 5,000 spaces if there's no providers. And that is one of the problems that I think that you are working on, that I think is crucial for the success of our county.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're referring to the new initiative we launched called Forward with Families, and that says, how do we really bring together the constellation of programs that exist, understand where the gaps are, presenting themselves, and really make sure that people understand that Allegheny County is a great place to raise a family, and that we're all actively working at all levels of government to ensure that. So Forward with Families looks at 5 pillars. So it looks at health and wellness. It looks at childcare and caregiving, education and workforce, housing and food, and savings and cash for families. So it's a broader initiative that's long-term for us. But the first program that we launched under it is to expand the number of childcare slots. So how do we create 5,000 new slots of childcare and out of school time? So we're talking about 0 to 12, not just infants in pre-K, but those kids who, need before and after school care as well as care during summer months. And it's all about strengthening the system. So it is a universal benefit for everyone, every parent who has kids those ages, like just opening up the supply and creating a fund that's flexible and allows providers to be able to use the money in a way that they see fit. So whether it's buying equipment, whether it's updating fire safety equipment, whether it's supporting their workforce, how are we going to make sure that we can get those slots? So we're really trying to be creative and innovative in government. And those aren't normally terms that are associated with government. But we want to be, as flexible as possible and not bog people down with bureaucracy to access funds like this, because we know they can have a bigger impact. And we're so excited about launching it. We're so excited about, Carlo and the work that you're doing to build up the workforce that's going to be necessary in order to unlock those slots so that working families around Allegheny County can be supported.
Yeah. So Sara, if your mother would have had access to this program, what would have done for her?
My mom mostly stayed at home when I was that age. She did work part-time at the JCPenney at Ross Park Mall, which was fun for me as growing up and going to take your daughter to work day, things like that. But, I think, it's while maybe our family, didn't necessarily need that, or maybe she could have stayed in the workforce because she was in banking before she left. And I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and that was still the time where you could have a single income household and really support a family. That's changed. And we know that when there's not access to childcare that's safe and affordable, people leave the workforce. That tends to be women. We know that something like 70% of women with young children participate in the workforce, and it's 11 percentage points higher when you're talking about the same age range, but they don't have young children. So women do leave the workforce predominantly because the cost of childcare is so high. And while this is really focused on supply, we need to make sure that there's options available for families and continue to work at all levels of government so that we can subsidize the system, because you're talking about families, even when they're well off, even when they're making six figures, even when there's two incomes, childcare, especially infant care, so expensive, over $20,000 a year. That's huge for families. And then you're talking about the providers, and they can barely afford to pay people $15 an hour. And we're asking for advanced degrees, right? These are the people who are taking care of our children. Right. Youngest family members, our youngest citizens here. And you can't, we need to pay this very critical workforce more money and make sure they have benefits. And also we can't squeeze families anymore.
Yeah, you're really caught in the middle. I feel caught in the middle because I'm trying to do both, right?
Absolutely.
I'm trying to pay people more than $15 an hour, which I am. If you're listening out there, but the reality is that I'm trying to help educate. But the other reality is, I know I have, I've had a 90 baby wait list. That's a lot of folks trying to get childcare. And, I think this program literally will help me to expand that number so that I can be a bigger provider, so that Carlo can be a bigger provider, and try to meet that need in the community as well, on both sides, that we can educate more people. But I do think as a society, we have to do something about the fact that we pay the people who take care of the foundation of our society, which are our babies. We pay them so poorly as a greater community. So I'm hoping that down the road something will occur where our state will support them differently. And even if we can't pay them more, can we dramatically lower their taxes? Can we do other things that will help people who are literally helping us create a greater society for those individuals who work really hard, right? Those people who take care of babies all day. I've had the pleasure of going down and seeing the babies. That is hard work.
Oh, absolutely.
And the amount of people that it takes to manage small amounts of babies is large, right? And so we do this work not because we make money from it. We're also not charging $20,000 a year, but we should be. Because we're trying to meet the next great need. And I think that's what the work that you're doing is. You constantly are looking for things that are going to meet the next great need. And here we talk about mercy. We say mercy because we're a mercy institution. Is the willingness to walk in the chaos of others. And I think that's what I see you doing with the various programs that you're providing, is that you're trying to walk in their chaos. And talk to us a little bit about, where do you find the strength? Where do you find the courage to do some of the things that you're doing? Because there's a lot of people who think you should be doing different things, right? So,
sure.
And that's always going to be, as a leader, somebody's always going to think, why is she doing that? Why isn't she doing this? Why is she doing helping me? Why do you find the courage to do what you think is right?
Well, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day. So I have a set of values where I want to build a better world. And I think that has been with me for some time. After I lost my father in my early 20s, recently I'd graduated from Pitt with a business degree, and I thought I was going to go and get a corporate job and, earn a bunch of money and, help support my family. And instead, after I lost my father, I felt this calling to give back to the world in some way. I really wanted to be a part of something that I felt was bigger than me. I wanted to help families not go through what my family had gone through. And I really started to look at the nonprofit space. And so I was fortunate to serve in some nonprofit roles and, help nonprofits and government agencies for some time. But when the opportunity opened up to run for state representative first, I took it. But the mission didn't change. And I happened to be elected and serve as state representative and now county executive. And the mission is still the same as it was when I was, entry-level person in the nonprofit world. And so I think that not being obsessed with the title that you hold in that moment, but really clear about what your goals are for yourself and for the impact you want to make on the world. And then right now, for me, it happens to manifest as county executive. But if it's something else, a role in the, another position or the private sector, like, I'm still going to move the way I'm moving. And I think that allows you to let go a lot of the fear that exists, especially in this moment, being an elected official and being in the public eye. It's hard. It's hard to see elected officials who have been assassinated because of political beliefs and things like that. So, I mean, I would be lying to say I don't think about that. And I don't, take precautions to provide safety for myself and my family, which I absolutely do. But at the end of the day, I want to do the right thing. And it's always the right time to do the right thing.
That's right. That's right. And you use that word calling. And we talk about that a lot here too. What made you think you could do what you're doing? What made you think that?
I know, the audacity. The audacity. It's interesting if you research women in politics, and it's often said that women need to be asked 7 times before they consider running for office. I know I hate to genderize it, but like it is like men tend to, check a couple boxes of the full list and they're like, oh, I can do this. But like, for some reason, the way that we've built society, women just feel like they have to be perfect or check all of the boxes 100%, or they have to be at 150% before they proceed to that next rung of leadership. And so, when I was considering running for state house, it was actually not my idea. I was very resistant to the idea. I had been, I was self-employed. I was consulting. I had started through my work with Coro Women in Leadership. I had started a program called She Runs, which was helping more women run for office because at the time, this was 2016, Pennsylvania ranked 49th when it came to women in office.
Wow.
And it's not just about electing 100% women. It's about having a representative democracy, which is what's promised to us as citizens of this country, a representative democracy. But if we are 50% of the population, but we do not make up 50% of the bodies that govern us, then there's an imbalance, there's an injustice.
Right. Now, I want everybody to catch one thing you said, and then we're going to keep going here. Because I do think what you're talking about as far as checking the boxes. And, oftentimes women believe they've got to check every single box. They got to be completely, unequivocally qualified as the box list. When in actuality, they do check those boxes 99.9% of the time, but they're not thinking about how they do before they will make that next step. And I think the point that you're making about you can do it. And just because somebody created a box that has to be checked, it's not necessarily so that you need to check that specific box because you have so many other boxes that you are checking. And so I just think that's a really important point. I didn't want us to move past that because somebody out there needs to hear, start anyway.
Exactly. And don't think that there will be an absence of fear.
That's right.
Every major move that I have made, so from starting my own business to running for office to, introducing policies that I think are right but have opposition, there was always fear.
Absolutely.
It's so scary to take that leap and to give us stability.
What do you do? What do you do to fight that fear? What did you do?
You surround yourself with good people, with people who love you, regardless of what you do, your friends, your family, excellent teammates. And, I felt like I've always had that support. And, it's hard. It is hard, but you kind of just have to move. You have to move through the fear. It's like the only way forward is through. That's
good.
You can't avoid
You got to move through the fear.
And it's okay. And like just taking don't be stupid about it. Put things in place that can help, protect yourself and, your, financial future and things like that. But it's also like it make calculated risks. Like it's okay to move forward and to step into a new leadership role and still have that fear. I've given speeches on like the importance of that because if you're not afraid, it typically means that you're not shooting high enough.
That's good. That's good too. If you're not afraid, you're not shooting high enough, right? I think there's a lot of truth to that because in this life, if you're not willing to take some risk, there's not a lot. The reward oftentimes is equated to the risks that you're willing to take. But ultimately, you have to know, when I take this risk, I'm still going to be all right. No matter what happens. And I think that's what happens when you put the right kind of people around you. I'm still going to be okay. I'm going to take this risk. If it doesn't go my way, I'm still going to be good.
Yes.
Right?
And when I ran for state house, I had I was going around, I was doing this, like trying to educate women on how to run for office.
Right.
And, because for better or worse, Allegheny County has 130 municipalities, 43 school districts. So it creates
Wow.
more than 1,000 opportunities to run for local office. So really just wanted to get the word out and help, educate women on how to support other women running for office and how to just go out and do it.
Right.
And I was doing that work, and I had members of my community who were looking for someone to run for State House. And I was like, oh, I can help recruit. I have this whole list of folks. So I had talked to a small business owner, and she was like, well, why don't you run? And I was like, no. And then I talked to another local elected, and she was like, well, why don't you run? And I was like, I'm not interested in running. I'm the cheerleader. I'm the supporter. I'll help you raise money. I'll help you with your comms work. I'm a connector. And, at the end of the day, I thought, okay, am I willing to sacrifice what I'm asking these other people to sacrifice? And the answer was, I'm not sure.
Right.
And, had this business. I recently bought a house. I was just trying to think through kind of building my life and putting it in a stable place that I worked really hard to do, and kind of running for office upends that, especially because I was challenging an incumbent, which is not an easy thing to do.
Right.
And so, I decided I was using myself as kind of a social experiment where I was going to run the race that I wanted to run, talk about the things that I wanted to talk about, like addressing injustice and working on housing and addressing the opioid epidemic with compassion, and just really share my story. And I thought, okay, I'll do that. I will likely lose, but I'll write a white paper and I'll help other women do this work, or other people who believe that we deserve a more representative and inclusive government. And I ended up, at the end of the day, we ran a really grassroots campaign. We ended up doubling voter turnout in the primary.
Wow.
Won, which was pretty incredible. And then came the governing. But, big risk can lead to big rewards. And, it was never about the title. It was always about what we could do with the platform.
The work. Well, I have to tell you, I'm so proud of everything you're doing, and I am so appreciative of everything you're doing, because I really do think it's making a difference. And, I often say here, I say two things here all the time. I say to my students, to whom much is given, much is required, because I do believe that if you get an opportunity to get a college degree, you've been given a great opportunity, and you're supposed to do something with it greater than just help yourself. And I think you have epitomized, you've been given some incredible opportunities. And with those opportunities, you are really making a difference in people's lives. So the other thing I say to them all the time is that success is what I hope for you. But my greatest hope is that you're going to play a significant role first in your own families, then in the greater community. And you epitomize what I hope, the greatest hope for my graduates is when they leave Carlow, is they go out and do what you're doing and changing the world. So thank you for being with me today.
Of course.
You're phenomenal.